This is episode 116 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 116 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Erik Doyle on the show. Erik is a realtor based out of Hamilton, Ontario, and he's also an investor focusing on flips at the moment. As he builds up his qualifications so that he can get refinance mortgages, he's working towards being able to BRRRR, but right now he's focusing on flips, which I think is actually a really great strategy. It's kind of like walking before you can run. When you do flips, you can pretty well do any deal you know there's profit in, whereas when you're doing a BRRRR, ideally as an investor, we're trying to get our money back out and recycle it. So we need that built-in 20% margin. So it's a great way to get your feet wet as long as you know you have contingency plans. So we talk about Erik's flipping business. We talk about the market right now, what's happening in the Hamilton area, what's happening out towards Niagara and surrounding areas, and where Erik sees opportunity. So it was a very interesting discussion. There are still places where you can potentially get close to the 1% rule and get deals that still cash flow in Ontario. So although it's becoming more of a unicorn, there is still a way to make it happen. And I thought it was a really interesting discussion. Erik's still new to this, but he's moving quickly, and I admire his intensity and his work ethic. As always, if you're new to this podcast and some of the terminology we're using isn't familiar, I recommend you head right back to episode 1 and start from the beginning where we really dig into the basics and the nuts and bolts. I also offer a cash flow spreadsheet. If you find that useful for analyzing deals, you can access that from my website, andrew-hines.com. If you haven't already done so, please make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell, and go ahead and leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. If you're an audio listener, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment and provide a 5-star review and a rating on Apple Podcasts. It just helps more people to find the show. So without further ado, please enjoy episode 116 with Erik Doyle. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have Erik Doyle on the show, and I think we've met before in passing, but I don't know your story. So Erik, why don't you take it away and tell us what you do and what you got going on in real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did meet about a year ago at a networking event, just in passing, as you mentioned. So I guess a bit about me. I joined Dylan Suter's team as a realtor in a couple of years ago. I was an investor before that. I started with a bunch of rent-to-owns. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that's kind of how I caught the investing bug. So then I joined Dylan's team to learn more about real estate investing, and it's been quite a fast-paced ride ever since.
Yeah, what's it like working with Dylan on a daily basis? Are you typically working with him, or are you kind of running your own shop underneath his operation?
Yeah, so totally running my own. We do work like on a daily basis. We have a couple meetings together. I can call him up anytime. But he runs, as I'm sure you're aware because you've seen his schedule, a very busy and very fast-paced team. So I had to elevate myself to that standard over the past couple of years. And now that I would never trade it for the world. I would never go back.
Yeah, so you're busy all day long, every day then, I guess, just like...
All day long, every day. So I changed from my 9-to-5 job. I was a security, consultant supervisor before, going into policing, and I completely did a 180 learning about investing and came on the realtor team.
Yeah. Yeah, when did you so when was Rich Dad Poor Dad? When did the light bulb flick on for you?
I would say I read that about 5 years ago. Okay. So I've always been kind of interested in, having wealth. I saw a lot of, I was raised middle family, so I thought a lot of everything is too expensive. We can't do that, like that kind of stuff. So I saw money as a way to freedom, or having time and money freedom. So from a young age, I already had that. And then reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, got into real estate, and now it's just amazing. I would never go back.
Yeah, that book did it for a lot of people. For me, it wasn't actually the start for me. I actually read that after I bought the first two. And then it gave me a little bit of a wake-up call. He talked about the liability of your home, and I'm like, wow, he's right. You want to minimize all that stuff until you have passive income paying for everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So you started with rent to own. When did you buy your first one?
So I bought my first one around 4 years ago, 2017. Yeah. So 4 years ago, I actually did not have enough money by myself. So I joined ventured with a friend at like a 5% down, lived in the property for a couple months or for the year. I can't remember how long it was. And then we rented that out for rent to own after. I probably wouldn't start that way, but that was kind of my starting. I didn't really know anyone in investing, and that was the only step I saw to go forward. I just wanted to get in so bad.
Yeah. So similar, I had the intentions. Well, I was looking at the rent to own option with my first couple. Neither of them panned out that way, but it's kind of an anticlimactic approach to starting, because you get all this energy. I want to go. And then you get in there, and then it's just like, now what? You can't refinance it. You can't add value to it. There's nothing you can do. Your money's trapped in there.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah. And then you just got to wait and hope the market goes up. And of course, hope the tenants actually do what they're supposed to do, get their credit fixed. And there's a lot of stuff going on there. Did you use like a company to facilitate your rent to owns, or you just learned it yourself and set it up?
So I kind of learned it myself through Rockstar. They were the original brokerage that I bought my first thing through. I went to one of their classes that they held, and then that's where I met the partner I'm now invested with. I still have that property. But as you know, my rent to own did not work out either. So we just own a single family home together that's currently like breaking even on cash flow, which is obviously not ideal.
Which city is that in?
St. Catharines. So I've been very lucky that the appreciation has been super strong, which makes it all worth it. But if that was in a different city and we didn't get appreciation lucky, I guess, then that probably wouldn't have worked out as well as it does.
Now, this isn't advice to anybody listening, but what I'm doing actually on my properties right now is a couple of them. I am refinancing, but even if you didn't want to refinance to take more out, you can just refinance to re-amortize your loan, right? If you're cash flow tight, you don't necessarily need to access that extra equity if you don't want to. But what I've done, and I'm working on right now, is basically just replace the mortgage roughly dollar for dollar what's currently outstanding, but then have a line of credit available behind that. And that's a really good tool. And then in the process, you can actually improve your cash flow on your property. If you're currently amortized 23 years, bring that back up to a 30, and all of a sudden cash flow gets better. So just a thought. Anyways, tangent, but
for sure, it's a good tangent though. Good strategy.
Yeah. I mean, cash flow gives you staying power, right? We never know what's going to happen. A lot of people are struggling to find cash flow. So if you can create it that way in your portfolio, it's going to help you sleep at night. For me, it does anyway. So what else have you gotten yourself into since the rent-to-own start?
So since the rent-to-owns, I've now been doing flips ever since joining Dylan's team. So I'm partnering with my brother. We're doing all 100% hard money, kind of the same thing as Dylan does. Okay. So we're finding these properties, fixing them up, and then selling them. And my brother owns a self-business, so he'll be able to get mortgages in 2 years. 2 years will be up in November. So then we'll start looking into BRRRR strategies, which is my favorite real estate investing strategy, which is multifamilies. Yeah.
Have you done any of those yet, or you're really just waiting until you can get the qualification?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my brother to get the qualification in November. I've helped like a ton of clients along through those and apartment buildings. Yeah, I just don't have any myself currently.
Yeah, I've said this before. I think it's really important to at least be able to flip, because you have to actually have a built-in 20% margin if you want to be able to BRRRR, right? If you want to actually get the perfect BRRRR where you can get the money all back out. So it's actually a little easier to flip sometimes than it is to BRRRR. So it's great that while you're waiting, you're doing that. Where are you doing that? Which city?
So I have one in Grimsby right along the beach currently. I have one in St. Catharines, and then I just sold one in Thorold 2 weeks ago, actually. Okay. So I'm doing multiple at a time, and it's kind of stressful, but I love it. So
yeah. So you mentioned that you're doing hard money, and we'll dig into like an example of one of these properties. But so how are you doing hard money? Like what's your source, or if you don't want to disclose, you can give us some generalities. But how do you structure that?
Yeah, so I don't really mind giving the source. So I'm going through Angie Pettyjohn at P&J Mortgages. She's part of the Alliance team. She'll probably appreciate the shout out. But I'm getting all the hard money from her. We are purchasing with I guess first mortgage, which is 8 and 2, 8% interest, 2% broker fee, 1% lender fee. Construction at around 15%. All these quotes might change depending on your personal situation. So I'm not a mortgage broker. Yeah. Please speak to professionals. And everything above that.
You're 15% on your construction mortgage, which is in second position. And then you're getting hard money on top of that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 100% financed.
Yeah, so this is a three different financing sources, so that you're not putting anything down. And the only part that's not secured is the hard money at the end. So we've got private money on the construction, I'm guessing. Is that a private mortgage? Because it's in second position. So
that's a promissory note. So we have one for the down payment, one for the actual mortgage, and then a promissory note up and above into the construction cost.
Yeah. Okay, so a proper construction mortgage, though, as your second mortgage. Your first mortgage, would that be with a bank? No, probably not, right? Probably private as well.
It's just one private mortgage total. Yeah.
Oh, one private mortgage, just segmented up into different rates on the different amounts.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting. I've never really heard that done with the privates. Okay, so even the same guy is lending you the promissory note portion as well.
Yep, they're all lending. It's all going through Angie, so it's three different lenders.
So it's all through that broker.
Yeah, it's three different things all through the broker. So the spreadsheet's a lot of carrying costs, so my margins are tighter. So I have to really know who I'm hiring for construction and to stick on budget.
Yeah, I remember at one point I calculated I was burning over $400 a day on a bungalow that I was renovating. And when you know you're spending that much every day counts. So when people don't show up, you're like, you just cost me $400.
Yeah, I totally feel the pain.
Yeah, it really does put things into a different perspective. Okay, so you're on them. If they miss one day, they don't show up, you're calling them what the heck's going on.
Yeah, basically, because I mean, when you're carrying that much money every day and you have such a short project, like some of these projects are 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
So every day is going to be lost income for you. So I mean, if you let them take it easy and slide off a week, then technically you just burn like $2,000. So obviously that's not ideal for a flip project, especially when you don't have the market over time to make up for it.
Yeah, it gets tricky, right? Because we've been lucky that the market keeps going up. But I mean, if it ever didn't, and you find yourself in that situation, like you can't go over budget. And anytime I'm running numbers, it's based on what the property can get today. But you also have to acknowledge that property could go down in value. So it's good to have a little bit of a buffer in there. So I don't want to breeze past this. So you said 15% on the construction mortgage portion, and then how much on the private, like the P note money, the hard money.
So the hard money is 15%. The mortgage is 8%, and the down payment is 8%. So So say you purchase price of 400, you have a down payment of 80, which is 8%. You have the full mortgage up to the 400.
Okay.
Which would be the 10%, I believe, and then you have over and above the purchase price a promissory note that's not actually tied to the property for 15.
Okay. That's okay though. Those rates really aren't that bad especially when somebody doesn't know you and it's through a broker. If you do it through friends and family, you can certainly start to improve on that number. But now as you get a track record, you'll probably start getting those offers.
Yeah, exactly. I was not lucky with my family. They're not really interested in investing in real estate until I got a few projects under my sleeve, and then they're like, oh, maybe this works.
Well, here's what happens whenever you can actually get back to the Thanksgiving dinner table or whatever, at Easter, you're talking about, oh yeah, I just finished up this project, $100,000 profit margin. And, our investors made this much. And like, whoa, how do we do that? Well, if you're interested, we can talk. And like, it's funny how those conversations pop up. A little harder when we get a virtual Thanksgiving versus the real one. So we'll see how that changes. But that's awesome that you're moving forward like that. So to recap, you're 8% on the first with a 2% broker fee. You're 15% on the second with also probably a broker fee in there, or is there no broker fee on top of that?
There's 10% on the mortgage, which is a 2% broker fee, 1% lender fee.
Okay.
And then the 15% construction loan is 15% and 1% lender fee.
Okay. Yeah. We're talking a lot of numbers, so I missed that part. So you're 10% plus 2 on the second. So 3 different portions, borrowing everything. But give me an example, like how much are you able to make by doing a deal like that?
Sure. So realistically, it depends on the deal. I'll just give you some high level numbers for the one in Grimsby I just picked up that we expect. I haven't sold it yet, so I can't give you the exact dollar amounts. So we bought it, actually, it's right along the beach for $460.
Okay.
The reason we actually got it so cheap is because it has a structural issue. So we'll be putting $135,000 in to fix it and selling it close to $800.
Okay.
800. So we are planning after all the fees are done, because obviously, 15% on $130,000 over 5 months is a lot. So, but once all the fees are done, we're expecting to pull out close to 100.
Okay.
It's kind of a unicorn property. That's not really expected, but every once in a while you do hit those home runs. Usually it's just base hits of like 20, 30, something like that.
Yeah, that's $590,000 in and you're $800,000 out. But you said after you factor in your expensive financing, you'll be about $100,000.
Yeah. Like
okay.
Fees,
So realtor fees as well. Yeah. Okay. So realtor fees are a big part, but you're going to save on some of those because you're a realtor, right? You list your own property.
Exactly.
So you're just paying the co-operating at like a 2.5% or something like that.
Yep. Most likely 2, just because the market's so hot, we don't really have to go 2% or 2.5.
Very good point. Very good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I just want to see how much your financing cost is. Like, do you know that number? Like, what's your total? Like, what are you estimating? Just your high level, like all financing, broker fees, and legal fees associated with your mortgage.
I could actually pull it up on the spreadsheet right now.
Yeah, just ballpark, just so people listening have an idea of what that looks like.
Sure. So, I mean, my total carrying costs per month. I'm just gonna wait for this to load. It's literally right in front of me.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so my total carrying costs per month would be around $3,000. Total financing fees would be $25,000 in interest over the 4 months.
$25,000. Okay.
Yeah. There's carrying costs of $18,000. There's deferred payments for 10. We have 10 of our own money in for the deposit, so that's kind of offsetting the down payment. But you're currently looking like $30,000 in interest. $30,000 in interest. So yeah, 20. You said 25 in interest originally, and then you said 18,000 in your other carrying costs. Is that right? Yep. Including your insurance, taxes. What else would be in there? Insurance, taxes. That would be your carrying costs for the down payment, carrying costs for the mortgage, carrying costs for the renovations. Oh, okay. So that's everything. That's so everything. All in carrying costs, including mortgage, including everying, is about 30,000. You said. Yeah. Okay. 30,000. All right. Just sorry. I don't want to complicate things here. Okay. So that's that's good. So in that 130 you told me earlier, on top of that is that 30, and then on top of that is the realtor fees you're going to pay. Exactly. So the realtor fees on 800 is going to be about $45,000. $45,000. So when we add those two together, we're getting $75,000. So you're going to be $800,000 sale price minus $75,000 minus the $590 of your purchase and renovation. I see 135 here. I know there could be a million other little things that are popping up, but some pretty good back of the envelope numbers. That sounds like a good deal. Like what is it and what are you doing to it? So it is a 2,000 square foot, 2-story home. It's like you can literally see the water from your front porch. That's really nice. What we are doing is we're tearing up the entire floor because the structural issue that we have, it has no basement. So it's just put up on blocks, and we're putting a solid beam across the whole bottom of the house. So we're going to have to underpin the house, hold it up while we put that beam in. And then after that, it's mostly cosmetic stuff. We'll be opening up a wall to make the kitchen and the living room like more open concept. But after that, it's just like kitchen, bathroom, flooring, paint. So you're putting in a new I-beam under the whole house, just sliding it in from the side. So you're going to put a hole in the side of is there an actual foundation wall or like a cinder block wall? Nothing. No. It's just like a little skirt that you can pull off. Yeah, we're actually pulling up the entire floor inside the house, and then lifting the house up, and then putting the beam under. So you're going to pay somebody to come in and lift the whole house up, or you're just going to jack it up on hydraulic jacks? Yeah, exactly. Okay, sounds like a fun project. It hopefully, as long as the house doesn't fall down. But I mean, how are you getting something like that done plus an interior renovation for $130,000? You just have to really know the right contractors. So there are obviously contractors, as I'm sure you're aware, that will kind of hose you for that things. I got a couple quotes. Some people that don't really do it that often gave me quotes that are like 2.5 times what the one who's an expert in it does. Mm-hmm. So I would really get your experts when you're trying to get into these contractor projects, especially flip projects, because every delayed day costs you money. Yeah. So you really have to work with the correct team and the correct people around you. And I've just been fortunate enough to kind of walk into that and build like the holes when being on Dylan's team. Yeah, it helps to be around people who are doing this stuff. They can kind of say, oh, stay away from that.
And I'll just share a story. Like I just have it from yesterday. This plumbing contractor I've worked with a bunch. I refer them to my mom, and my mom doesn't exactly know what she's looking for. So she gets them in there, and then she texts me. She's like, "Hey, does 8,800 sound all right for a basement? Like adding in a basement bathroom when they're not doing anything other than coming in, like setting down the materials for like maybe a few hours." And I'm like, no, that's not all right. So, give me this guy's numbers. And I call him. I'm like, what do you got for this? What are you doing here? And like just the numbers coming back. Oh, well, we quoted $800 for a valve and a tap. I'm like, why do we need $800? We quoted $300 for a toilet. What's wrong with a $140 toilet? $500 for the tub. Just like a lot of these things. Like I don't like to micromanage, but once you kind of get in this business, you know what you need. Don't leave room with your contractors for stuff you don't need, or for them to spend money you don't need to spend on things that don't matter to you, right? I think a $500 toilet doesn't mean anything to my mom over a $140 toilet. So just things like that can help. But I mean, I'm shocked to hear that you're getting that number, because I will say I've heard so many investors going through some bigger name contractors in our area, in the Hamilton, Burlington area, talking about, a basement conversion plus a little bit of a minor reno upstairs, they're getting into $140,000. Mm-hmm. So that you're doing this for 130 when you're getting into that kind of work it's definitely impressive.
Yeah, I mean, the best part about that, for conversions, you have to go to the city and get all these permits and checks, plus the cost of lumber, like during COVID, as I'm sure you're aware, has gone up a ridiculous amount. It's like 3.5 to 4 times what it was before.
Mm-hmm. Depending on the piece, right? Yeah. The 2x4 is the prime example of ridiculousnly.
Yeah. It's like 285 to like 860 now. I just saw it like in Home Hardware like a couple days ago. So,
back my first project, it was $1.85 plus tax. That was what I was paying for a 2x4x8.
Perfect. We should go back to those days. That would be sweet.
If only I had stockpiled just like warehouses full, I could have sold them.
If only we had known. You could have started a whole wood business, just sold it to investors for double what you bought it for, and they would be lining up. If
it stays where it is, like, I mean, it almost makes sense to get into lumber milling.
Yeah.
And reclaiming. I think back to all the boards we used to throw out when we'd rip out interior walls. We'd throw out all the old, because they weren't true 2x4s, but they weren't like the current ones, but they also weren't true ones. No matter what, you don't want to mix your sizes. So we just chuck them. Now, you'd be crazy to do that. You should rip all the nails out of them, reuse them.
Yeah, exactly. If only we had known it would get so expensive so quick.
I'm not really sure I see that ever coming down, though. I mean, I'd have to dig into more of what's going on, what's happening, like why it's so bad. But I mean, we're seeing that across the board, everything, right? Lumber's the worst, but everything is up, at least something. So
for sure,
we're going to have to be careful over the next few years with this inflation bug that's kind of hitting us.
Yeah, I totally agree. I hope it doesn't hit our economy too hard after everything like opens up again.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I've heard from a couple of people, so we're recording this April 14th, that the real estate market is starting to slow a little bit from where it was. Since you're in the business, why don't you give us your thoughts on that?
Sure. So it is actually starting to slow, depending on what you're doing. So I will say, if you're looking for a residential like house to live in, just for a regular person, we are actually seeing conditions being actually flying in properties and going back to the conditional times where you can actually get financing and actually get a home inspector in on some of the properties. If you are doing like projects like I'm trying to find, like flip projects, you're still getting 15 offers per house. So it's kind of, because investors don't really, they kind of know what they're doing and they know they're going to fix up anyway. So they don't really need a home inspection. Yeah. Like the house is a mess. The report would be like 55 pages long.
So what kind of house is getting conditions right now? Like, is it the $800,000 house, the $1 million house? Like, which ones are getting conditions?
So realistically, I'm just going to speak of Hamilton because I'm sitting there right now in my house. So anywhere from 600 up, that is turnkey as a family home, is actually allowing conditions now. Okay. I say allowing as in there's not enough competition that pushes it out.
Right. Okay. So if you're into that kind of thing, then you're going to have still multiple offers, but with conditions, or not even necessarily multiple offers.
Yeah, there will be a couple. So it's not multiple offers like 10, but there will be one to 3, depending on how nice the property is, what the area. If there's been, a couple houses there for sale in the past couple of years, maybe there's only been one in that neighborhood and there'll be a couple offers on it. But those are now starting to allow conditions. You'll go through a full due diligence process. If we're talking about, since we're on an investing podcast, if we're talking about any sort of investment that is still very hot.
Yeah, but what can you even buy? Like, what's the current breakdown in Hamilton? What are investors buying? What do you see them buying, and what do you see them paying for it?
So duplex conversions, we're getting close to mid sixes just for bungalows, like standard things that would be, like 500 a couple of years ago or 400. We're seeing them pay around 650 for a bungalow conversion, just a 3 up, 2 down. We're getting quotes now that are like 150 for a conversion. 160 sometimes.
To do the conversion as far as contractor pricing?
Yeah, as far as contractor
pricing. So people are
pricing.
paying $650 to buy it, and then they're paying $140, $150 to reno, including like a nice, probably a little bit of a touch up upstairs as well.
For sure.
Wow.
And then we're refinancing close to the 850s, but we're hitting like around 825. But it's steadily going up. So
what's happening with rents on those?
So rents for a 3-bedroom unit were like, some people are getting 2,300 plus utilities for a 3-bedroom upper. Basement 17 plus utilities, something around there, 1750.
Is that new? Like, I'm trying to think of what people used to say rents were on the uppers. Like last year, what would you have said the upper rent would be, lower rent would be?
Like upper rent 1950, 2000 last year.
Okay, so we're up. This is what I see consistently is it always takes a while for rents to catch up to the housing prices. And my take on that is when landlords know they're not getting as much money for a unit, they won't buy properties to rent them out, so that the supply dwindles and then people start bidding up. But there's going to come a point, like what kind of tenant do you see paying $2,300?
Self-employed business person that can't get a mortgage. A family. So we're seeing more people move into less spaces, which is very usual all across the rest of the world. So Canada is quickly catching up to that, where instead of like a husband, a wife, and a kid moving into a 3-bedroom unit, you now see like maybe the grandmother lives with them. Maybe they have multiple kids, like that sort of stuff.
And I really don't like that as a landlord, the overuse of the property, like what you get into, the damage they cause to the property by living that way, and the clutter. It makes it hard to re-rent because you've got like a big family living in a small space.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's going to become the norm, right? People are just going to have to start seeing through that. I sort of had that at one of my properties, and I didn't want that, but there's people just putting too many people in smaller spaces.
Yeah, and then
what are they going to do, right? If they've got to, if it's not worth it to landlords to offer a rental product, then they will have nowhere to live, right? So I think that's just where things are going to have to go.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's why you kind of have to do a mini renovation of like painting or maybe flooring, or it depends on the damage after. But that's why the rents are going so high, because they have to cover it, because the prices are so high now that we have to have those rents. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense to landlords.
Yeah. Landlords aren't going to continue. Yes, there's going to be a few people who are going to pay too much and get negative cash flow, but the rest are going to expect cash flow, and the market does catch up to that. So I'm trying to apply this knowledge to what I see in Florida right now, because it's crazy here too. 15% year over year increase, but they're far behind, right? You can still buy a side-by-side duplex. They call it a duplex down here. It's more of a semi, but you can still buy that under 500, brand new construction, 450, something in that range. Pretty wild numbers when you think of what things cost at home.
Yeah, like even in Alberta or anywhere outside of Ontario, the prices aren't nearly as inflated. So I look at those prices, I'm like, this is free, like compared to Ontario prices.
Well, yeah, I think Alberta is a big opportunity right now. I know a lot of people flocking out there. Mm-hmm. I just kind of wanted to get a little bit of money outside of Canada for a number of reasons with what's going on, but. So what do you see happening in the near future? I know you talk about doing BRRRRs. Where are you going to focus your energy, knowing how crazy property values have gone in the Southwestern Ontario market?
So I really like the Niagara region. I feel it is a bit undervalued from where it should be, especially when you get outside of St. Catharines. The only reason I plan to do a bunch of multifamily conversions come like November, December. The only reason I'm trying to stay away, I mean, obviously, if it's a fantastic deal, I'll still go there. But the only reason I'm trying to stay away from St. Catharines is because working with the city is quite a pain, which I'm sure you've had before or heard before from
I've heard a lot.
Investors.
I've heard a lot, yeah.
So anything like any conversion outside in Welland, Niagara Falls, even Fort Erie and Port Colborne are actually decent cash flow property still.
Let me ask you this though. I always see those things as an opportunity. Do you not see it as an opportunity that all the investors say the same thing about St. Catharines? That means they're not really looking at St. Catharines.
That is true. So I do see it as an opportunity. It's just I don't know whether I want to go through the headache yet with the city.
Yeah, you got to become an expert in St. Catharines. Know the guy. Go take him out for coffee or something like that. I don't know.
Yep, you definitely do.
I always do see those things as an opportunity if you want to put in the time. But where's the best cash flow right now? Like where do you look in the Niagara region for cash flow, and what do you like? What don't you like?
If you're doing solely cash flow, I would say like Port Erie and Fort Colborne, because the rents are actually decently high and the property prices have not appreciated nearly as much as like St. Catharines and Welland.
Okay.
So Welland, there's like, I checked yesterday, there was 4 multifamilies on the market. So obviously that's going to be extreme competition as there's a ton of investors moving into the Niagara region. So Fort Erie and Port Colborne are a little slept on, and you can cash flow very well, much nicer than you can in the other areas if cash flow is your only well, not only, but if cash flow is the main concern.
So give me an example of what you can buy in Fort Erie.
Sure. So Fort Erie duplex, you're spending around 400. Your upper unit's cash flowing. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom down. It's cash flowing around, or I guess I'll give you the rents first. So up would be 1650, down would be around 1350 to 1400 for a really nice one. And you can be cash flowing above like 500, 600 bucks.
Okay.
And that's just for turnkey. That's not creating anything. That's not BRRRR process. That's just buying a duplex that's completely renovated.
Completely renovated turnkey project.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's opportunity there. I'm just seeing what rule does this have. So you're 2,900 gross rent on something for 4,000. That's 0.72. It's not 1% rule, but it's pretty good for Ontario. Those are good numbers. 0.72.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1% rule you can get. You're just moving far, far out of the cities.
So yeah, you can still get that. Where would you look if you wanted to find 1% rule?
I know you can get it up north. I'm not an expert of up north by any means.
Oh yeah, like Sudbury or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Sudbury. I have seen things come in from Thunder Bay. I have seen things come in from like towns you wouldn't have heard of. I actually can't remember the town name. Yeah. But it's stuff like that's north of Thunder Bay where you're getting like a 1.3% rule.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is there's no structure. There's nothing in the city really. It's like a kind of a one mining town or a town that was forgot about where you're still getting rents, but there's no appreciation there. It's a flat market or declining.
Yeah. I was just going to say, you can go to Youngstown, Ohio and get the 3% rule, but it's only in theory. Sometimes these things are only in theory. They're not in practice. And that's the problem. So in the Niagara region, what do you like what level of comfort do you have with Fort Erie that there's going to continue to be a demand for housing there? Like, what are the factors that contribute that make you comfortable there?
The factors that people are moving out of St. Catharines and Welland just for cheaper housing. So Fort Erie is, I would say, kind of a vacation town, but I guess the benefit of there being that there's almost no rentals. So the demand for rentals is high, but that's because there's 1 or 2 or 3 properties that are available like ever, or in the couple of months. So
these are just people moving there. What are they, retired? Are they working remotely? Like what's the typical demographic?
Yeah, both. So either retired or working remotely. Something that frees up their location so that they don't need to live in a city. So if they don't need to live in Toronto anymore, where they're paying $2,500 to rent or $1.5 million for a house, they sell their house and move down to Fort Erie, and they can buy a literal mansion for the same price.
That's actually, it's pretty good. I mean, it's kind of pigeonholed in a way because the city doesn't support it. It doesn't have its own industry supporting. I mean, of course, services are going to move in to service the people. It's a long commute if you're going into Hamilton to work or something like that. Although some people probably would do it, right? It's 45 minutes, I think, to get from Fort Erie to Hamilton.
It's an hour. So if people just had to go to the office like 1 or 2 times a week, it could still be worth like a viable option. But if they had to go in every day, that would drive me crazy. I'm sure it would drive other people crazy, but I'm sure there's some people that do it just for the cheaper living.
Yeah, to keep the bills low. I think there are people that will do it. It probably wouldn't be me. But it just depends on how crazy things get, right? Mm-hmm. So I have I'm fortunate that I can work remotely, so it would be okay for me. But I prefer a warmer climate.
Yeah, I could see that's why you're in Florida the whole time. I'm kind of jealous, but
yeah,
it's warming up here too. So
yeah. Well, I heard that you guys are getting some nicer weather, so that's good. We actually managed to. So Carmen has some beach rentals, and they have to be rented weekly. The bylaw here says they have to be weekly, and then she had a 5-day vacancy. So we've got ourselves down here. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh yeah. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous now.
I saw a dolphin from where I'm sitting right now earlier.
Oh, come on.
Yesterday, I just turned to the right, and then we saw him again this morning. So
you're completely open. You're out where dolphins are, and then we are in like total gray lockdown, meaning absolutely nothing is open beside grocery stores and a bunch of other stores.
And you can't even buy like non-essential quote unquote. I like to actually, and it's not to rub it in people's faces. I do put this on Instagram and stuff. Whenever I post stuff or talk about this stuff, just for anyone listening, I don't do it to rub it in. I do it to incite the proper response, which is anger at your politicians for doing things that don't make sense. Down here, people are not dropping dead. They're just living life. It's pretty cool. So I'm hoping that people will just say, you know what, enough's enough. We gotta move on with things. So I don't know if you're seeing any of that at home right now. Like if you see any signs of that happening, are people more or less just on board with this latest lockdown, or do you see a lot of pushback?
I would say about 50-50. It really depends. I have the benefit of being an essential worker, so I kind of go on like nothing's happened. But some people are, especially like waiters, bartenders, anyone that's in the service industry, they're kind of losing their jobs, and they're sick of lockdowns being happening because now they literally can't afford to live, basically. So from that side, it's very bad. People that are retired like the lockdowns, but that's just because they're a bit scared, I would think, being a bigger demographic of risk. So I mean, depends who I'm out with. I see it from both sides.
You see it okay. Yeah. Well, it's a valuable perspective to have. I think that, it's just tough. It's tough for me to stomach the whole, it doesn't affect me, because truthfully, it hasn't affected me at all. I'm essential, my business is essential, hasn't been hurt in any way from the profit standpoint. So everything I say and do is really just to my own detriment, because you're not supposed to talk about these things. But anyways, I do think it's really important. And for anyone listening, speak your mind. I think there's a lot of reason that we should get this open for a lot of people that are really hurting right now. But anywho, so to get back to our discussion on real estate, so you've got, you gave me an example, the one you're going to sell, you think maybe between 100 and 130 profit. What else you got coming up in the pipeline here?
So I have another flip project in St. Catharines. That one is going to be around a 450 purchase price. We're putting around 60 grand. This is a kind of a straight cosmetic, so there's nothing exciting really about this. It's just like a new kitchen, new bath, new roof, flooring, paint, new windows, like proper light fixtures, and then staging. Okay. So it'll be 450 as a purchase price. You're putting around 60 down.
So you're in for 510 or so plus your carrying costs.
Yeah, plus your carrying costs.
So say 20 grand for carrying or something.
Yep, it'd be 25 grand for carrying. You're in for around, what's that, like 530, 540?
Yeah, 535.
Okay, 535. We're selling, we're expecting 6, but based on the market, we're expecting 6 when we bought, but the market has gone up since then, so we're expecting like closer to 625, we'll say. Okay. Hopefully 650, but that's a bit of speculation. Wishful thinking on my end. So if that happens, then we should pull out a nice profit after realtor fees and staging, discharge fees, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, like you'd be roughly, so factoring a 2.5% realtor commission, you'd clear about 609, and then you'd have your legal fees and what have you. So you'd have maybe even a $75,000 profit. And are you splitting this, or is this on your own?
Yeah, this is split with my brother.
Oh, with your brother? Okay, so you guys are just kind of handling the management together, because you're working full time, right, with your clients, running your realtor business, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm actually the active partner in all these, and my brother's the money partner. He actually lives in Alberta that he just moved to with his wife. He's sending me houses that he can buy for $500,000, and then I am just shaking my head at him because they're 7-bedroom, right on the water mansions. So. Obviously it's not ideal. It's kind of, we bought the house in St. Catharines for the same price and it's falling apart. So it's
different market.
Different market. But
why have a partner when you're able to finance 100%, like you've said?
So I'm only able to finance 100% because both of us are on.
Okay.
So
you have both guarantees. You guys are both giving a guarantee on it.
Exactly. Okay. We're both giving a guarantee. Plus, I am now able to bring him, or he wants to come into the business, and it's beneficial to me because now I can bring most of my family into the business if it works out with him. So it's kind of a family reason. If I was just doing it as an investor, I probably wouldn't do a partner. Yeah. Unless like I have clients that partner with me, like that sort of thing. But just because they want to be like a passive money partner. But if it was just for myself, I would be like Dylan, as he taught me as a mentor, to kind of just use hard money and then have 100% ownership.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but he doesn't do that, right? He's got Robbie in there with him. But at the same time, like, there's a lot of reasons. I think the big comment there is, it's what do you get that's intangible from that partner? It's not just money. There's always something else. And for sure, I think the best is when that partner pushes you and you guys are more together than you would be the two of you on your own.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that it sounds like you might have that. And then, of course, with family, once one of them's earned some money, they, of course, tell everybody else that they've earned some money, and it gets them wanting to do it too. So
that is exactly what I'm hoping. So because my family was not on board when I started. So I'm chipping away slowly at them, because I'm like, why would you work your whole life and not invest if you can just do this? So.
Right. Yeah. Smart thinking. I went totally unconventional for my family as well. Like, my family did not think like this. No one invested in real estate ever. I got my brother sort of hooked on it. Actually, I think he might have had a rental property before I did. No, it wasn't before, but it was roughly in that time. We were both talking about it, and he finally did. And then I've gotten him into investments, and it goes a long way, right? Because then other people, oh, well, I heard you did this with this guy. So, and then friends, the same thing. Like, I had one friend that lent to me, and then, soon enough, his mother-in-law is calling me saying she wants to invest. And, these things, just give people a good experience, treat your investors really well, and things come around. So awesome. Erik, anything else you'd like to share? Your wisdom that you've gleaned so far in your flipping business, to investors thinking about getting going, or people that maybe want to get more active and flip?
So I will say that I think flipping's the hardest, especially if you're doing with hard money. If you are doing with your own money, it's a bit different. Mm-hmm. But I don't usually recommend it to newer investors. The reason being that they have to manage a lot of contractors' issues, that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I help my clients through that as they can. But if you are a newer investor, I would suggest, and this is just my personal opinion, to get into the market first, so you have an idea of kind of what it entails, like the basics. I'm really a fan of equity over time rather than flipping. Yeah. So if you can stay in the market over a period of time, that's where wealth and generational wealth is built. And flipping is just kind of like the day trading of being in the stock market. But all of the wealth in the stock market has been built over years and years and years.
Well, you can make your active full-time income from flipping, right? I think that's the difference. Like, maybe you're not trying to do that. This is just sort of practice gearing up to do BRRRRs, which is great, and a little bit of gravy as well. But, for me, for a while, my business was flipping student rentals, like, buying them, and I started a company for that. But it's much better to just keep them. I agree with you. Sure. Like, I look at anyone I sold to this date, and I would have gotten more by keeping it. So,
totally.
It's that's something you got to weigh, right? If it depends, like, if you have a full-time career now, so you don't need this to be your active full-time income.
Yeah, if you want to be like full-time in flipping, we can get you there. It's just I personally don't think it is the best. But that's just my personal opinion. If you love flipping, you love the activeness of it, then 100% go for it. I don't want to stop anyone's growth.
You'll always shed some tears over the ones you sold, though. Always will. Okay, so where do people reach you if they want to connect?
Sure. So I guess the easiest way would be on Facebook. So it's just Erik Doyle, Erik Doyle. Fairly active there. On Instagram, it's Erik Doyle Realtor. So you can reach me at either of those two social media platforms. Fairly active on my messages. That'll just be the fastest way. Or email eric@elevationrealty.ca.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll post that all in the show notes so everybody can access that. And then, of course, I guess if people are looking to buy real estate in Hamilton, you can help them. Are you doing work right down to Fort Erie as well?
Yeah, absolutely. General markets I cover: Hamilton, Brantford, all the way to Fort Erie.
Okay. Cool. Well, I really appreciate this, Erik. It was nice chatting with you again. It's been a while, but
it has been a while.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you're crushing it, and I'll look forward to hearing how much money you're making on these next couple of flips.
Perfect. I'll come back for a second episode in a bit, and then we'll do an update. And I look forward to seeing all you guys at a new investor meet whenever we open up.
Yeah, whenever that can happen again.
Whenever that happens, in 2050. But
yeah, 2050. Yeah, I've seen some good memes around that one. Anyways.
Yeah, me too.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.